So, when you think about treating type 1 diabetes, your mind probably jumps straight to one thing, right? Insulin. But what if the real solution, the one that truly changes lives, is so much more than just a vial of medicine? Well, let's get into it. Okay, so our story starts here in Kajiado County, Kenya. This is where a fantastic community organization called NiaNexa is completely flipping the script on how we care for people with chronic diseases. And I'm telling you, this isn't just about healthcare, it's about a community, a huge challenge, and a really, really cool idea. And that leads us to this kind of wild question. For a child with type 1 diabetes living here, what's more important, life-saving insulin or a goat? Now, I know that sounds totally bizarre, but trust me on this one, because the answer reveals something profound about what effective healthcare can and maybe should look like. To really wrap our heads around that question, we've got to dig a little deeper than just the surface level stuff. The challenge these families are facing is, well, it's complicated. You see, for the more than 100 people and their families that NiaNexa works with, type 1 diabetes isn't just this isolated medical problem. It's all tangled up in this huge knot of daily struggles. Things like poverty, not having enough food, constant stress. A simple prescription just doesn't even begin to cut it. And this tangled knot of problems, it actually has a name. They're not just fighting a disease, they're up against what public health experts call a syndemic. So what in the world is a syndemic? Think of it like a perfect storm. It's when you have multiple big problems that all slam into each other and make each other worse. In this case, you've got chronic disease, like diabetes, colliding head-on with depression and the crushing weight of poverty. They feed off each other, creating this crisis that's way, way bigger than any single one of them alone. So if we break that down, you can see these three core challenges just fueling each other in a vicious cycle. First off, economic instability means families just can't afford the healthy diet you need to manage blood sugar. Then, on top of that, there's a serious nutritional deficit. Droughts and high food prices make healthy options almost impossible to find. And finally, you've got this fragmented care system. There's this huge gap between what a doctor says in a clinic and what a family can actually do at home. So, if the problem is this interconnected web, it makes sense that the solution has to be too, right? And this right here is where NiaNexa's approach is just so incredibly smart. They've built their whole model on three pillars that directly fight back against that triple threat we just talked about. They're tackling health, livelihood, and mental wellness all at the same time, not as separate issues, but as one big, interconnected whole. It's all about treating the whole person, their whole family, in their whole environment. Now, having a great idea is one thing, but how do you actually pull it off? How do you make it real? Let's take a look at NiaNexa's super clear three-stage plan for putting this whole thing into action. This pilot program, which is planned to run from July to November 2026, is just laid out so logically. And I want you to notice the order here because it's key. They don't start with the medicine, no. They start by building a solid foundation of economic and nutritional stability first. Only then do they bring in the health interventions, and then finally they work to bake it all into the local system so it lasts. So let's talk about stage one. It is all about empowerment. And remember that goat from the beginning? Here's where it all clicks. Donating a dairy goat gives a family nutritious milk, which helps stabilize their diet. But, and this is huge, any extra milk can be sold for income. You pair that with training them to grow their own healthy food, and suddenly you've got a family with food security and economic stability. You got to build the foundation first. Okay, once that foundation is solid, stage two kicks in. They hold a 3-day medical camp that gives families intensive, hands-on clinical education. They cleverly time it during the school break so the kids can be there. And this is where you really see the holistic model shine. At the same camp, they're doing mental health assessments to tackle all that stress and anxiety. They also add poultry to the mix for more nutrition and income. And get this, they even offer university scholarships to literally break that cycle of poverty and illness for the next generation. Just brilliant. And the final stage? Well, it's all about making sure this whole thing lasts. This isn't a temporary Band-Aid. NiaNexa works directly with local government and health officials. The end goal is to officially merge their program right into the local systems on World Diabetes Day, making sure these families have support for years and years to come. It's about building something permanent. So, when you put all the pieces together, you see this incredible shift in thinking. This program isn't about giving aid. It's about investing in people's ability to stand on their own 2 feet. So, you might be wondering, what does it actually take to get a groundbreaking program like this started? Well, the total budget for this whole 5-month pilot is 3.5 million Kenyan shillings. And that funding isn't just spread thin across a huge area. No, it's a deep, focused investment. It's designed to go all in on supporting 25 vulnerable families to create a really profound, transformative impact. The goal isn't just to help a little bit, it's to build a powerful, proven model that can then be scaled up and copied in other places. And honestly, this quote from the project plan just says it all perfectly. The whole point is to take that vicious cycle of the syndemic and flip it, turning it into a positive cycle of stability, good health, and independence. We're moving beyond just keeping people alive to empowering them to actually thrive. And that brings us right back to where we started. This incredible model from Kajiado County, it really forces us to ask a much bigger question. In a world where poverty and chronic illness are so deeply tangled together, maybe it's time we start looking beyond the pharmacy. Maybe it's time we start thinking about goats and gardens and education as a fundamental part of healthcare. What do you think?